door. That way people don't have to run all the way through the police department and around to get into where the money is. She goes, we don't keep money anymore. The other night they needed like Terry, if she needs Ann and she's sitting in here, Terry has to go all the way out here around through the police department and back into where that little door is where Linda was sitting. There's no way to get help if you need it. There's no fast way to do it. Whereas if that door's open, somebody can say, Terry, she needs you, and she can walk that way. If that door's open.
Right now.
They do, but it's the door. So I'm gonna, after we do this. Thank you. Thank you for your patience, technical difficulties. Good evening and welcome to the City of Sharonville's council meeting. If everyone would please rise, we're going to have a moment of silent prayer and then the Pledge of Allegiance. It's all led by Mr. David Cook.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You can be seated. Roll call.
Mr. Tankers.
Here.
Thanks. Mr. Wilson.
Here.
Mr. Lippert.
Here.
Mr. Duda.
Here.
Mr. Cook.
Here.
Mrs. Knight. Here. And Mr. Schmidt.
Here.
Approval of our minutes from March 30th. Are there any corrections or additions? Seeing none, those stand as written and distributed. Thank you. Mayor Hardman, communications. I would love to.
This is always a fun time that we get to spend, and that is when we have the great and pleasure to promote someone within our ranks to a new position. Dana, come on forward if you would, please. So this is our soon-to-be, although I think she's actually already be, because we're going to make it formal tonight, new sergeant with the Sharonville Police Department, Dana Taggart. So Dana is, here's the bio. You ready? Dana grew up in Trenton, Ohio. She started her law enforcement career in 2004. Started as a part-time dispatcher for the city of Trenton, and then a full-time dispatcher with the Butler County Sheriff's Office. In 2010, she graduated from the Butler Tech Police Academy. She was a special deputy with the Butler County Sheriff's Office for 2 years. was a full-time police officer for the city of Franklin in 2012. And then she has been with us here in Sharonville since 2013. The first 6 years of her career, she served as a patrol officer on the 3rd shift. And then in 2019, she became our community resource officer, where she has taught multiple youth classes in cooperation with Recreation Department, served as our DARE officer and public information officer. She helps manage our social media accounts, and some of the more recent postings are just wonderful that have come from our police department. And so as far as reaching out to our community, acts as a liaison with our Sharonville Chamber of Commerce. She serves with the Hamilton County Heroin Coalition Quick Response Team, following up with victims of drug overdose here in Hamilton County. She holds a number of special certifications: a public safety wellness instructor, crisis and intervention and peer support, crime prevention through community engagement, and is a certified crime prevention specialist. She resides in her hometown of Trenton with her husband, Greg, who is a sergeant with the Village of Evendale Police Department, and her 2 children, Gage, who's 14, and Tegan, who's 12. I think they're all here, right? Who else is here, Dana? So I know you got probably several family members here.
Yes, like my whole family's here. So my dad and my mom and my grandma, my mother and father-in-law, my other mother-in-law, my kiddos, and my parents. I think that's everybody. Yeah, my whole family. Yes.
And they're here to celebrate with you. Greg, why don't you come up with us? Because we're going to have you do something here in a little bit. You hold that to begin with. And Dana, let's do this officially. If you'll raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Dana Taggart,
I, Dana Taggart,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Ohio,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Ohio,
and the city of Sharonville,
and the city of Sharonville,
and that I will honestly
and that I will honestly
and faithfully
and faithfully
discharge the duties of the office of sergeant,
discharge the duties of the office of sergeant,
to which I have been appointed
to which I have been appointed,
according to law and to the best of my ability.
according to law and to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. We'll do this, right? Good job. That's right. All right, Greg's going to do the honors of pinning on this very special badge here. And you got new patch 2 that you actually already have on. That's love right there. Don't stab me. It's perfect. Congratulations. That is yours. Chief, Vicki, stand here and everybody can take some pictures. There we go. Hold your breath, we'll be okay. I'll be 6 feet apart. All right, congratulations again.
Thank you.
Now you get to give your speech, right?
Thank you all for coming.
Unless anyone has any questions for me, that's my report for tonight.
If you, Miranda, if you guys can wait just in the police department, if you can wait just one moment, please. Mrs. Knight is the committee chair of our honored citizens. And tonight she has a special thing she's going to honor. So I'm going to let Mrs. Knight speak right now.
Because today is National Dispatcher Day, I decided that I would honor all our dispatchers and past dispatchers, Dana, from our police department. It's very much an honor to be able to point people out that you do an excellent job and you need as much recognition as anybody else. So thank you so much.
And we do have two of our dispatchers here. If you ladies would just raise your hand so everyone knows who you are, because we hear you on the phone. We don't see you always. Thank you both, and thank everyone else. Pam, there is a little something, something up the police station for you. Don't let them eat them all. Thank you, ladies. Now you can go. Thank you for waiting. Now we'll go to our Safety Service Director, Mr. Lucas.
Thank you. I don't have anything this evening, and others are here tonight to talk about the legislation. First one, John Creech is here to talk about an MOU.
Okay.
Good evening. Good evening, City Council. This item is a resolution number 2021 R02. It will authorize the city to enter into a memorandum of understanding with other communities and organizations that make up something called the Sharon Creek Collaborative. And the point of that is to plan, construct, and maintain a Sharon Creek Trail. You should have received in the memo that you were sent, there is a map there that shows some property I'm just going to talk about quickly. That property was the subject of a grant application that you were notified about back in January. Great Parks of Hamilton County made a grant application to Clean Ohio Fund to acquire about 8 acres of property from, thank you. Before I get into that, I can control it.
You got it?
Yep, I got it.
Perfect.
So before I get into that, the communities that are considering signing this memorandum of understanding: Evendale, Sharonville, Great Parks of Hamilton County, the Mill Creek Alliance, Mill Creek Conservancy District, an organization called Connecting Active Communities Coalition. Michelle Gotchlich is chair of that. She's here. And Tri-State Trails, who's a large trail organization in the Cincinnati metropolitan area. So this is the map that I was just talking about. So Great Parks of Hamilton County made an application to the state of Ohio, and Michelle has some information to report on that in just a moment. But the plan was to acquire about 8 acres of excess railroad property for a future trail that would basically run from Evendale into just underneath Sharon Road, eventually into behind the loop. And then, of course, the next phase would be getting it from the loop to Sharon Woods Park. So I just wanted to go to this just to kind of put it in perspective. So the city back in 2017 signed a similar memorandum of understanding with the Mill Creek Collaborative. And this is some information that was presented at that time. So this shows the greater or the Parks District areas in northern Hamilton County and the overall concept plan to connect all those parks through various multi-use trails. So I've added the little purple arrow there, and that is that's the section that I was just talking about. So that shows you how this fits in. And the purpose of this new memorandum of understanding is just specifically for this. So anytime the city or any organization has a document such as that MOU, where there are a lot of signatories, that's added to the grant application. So it just makes for better chances of being funded, especially when you're applying to the state of Ohio. So that just shows the area there. And you do have the information in the agreement. It's pretty much the same language that we would work with these other communities to expand trail areas, seek grant opportunities, and basically work collaboratively. Michelle is here, and she's really, just since I've been here, has been spearheading this whole effort with all of these communities, and there are actually quite a few more communities that are part of the collaborative. Did you want to add anything?
You really summarized it all. You did a great job. I just want to end with a bang and tell you that, we're really gaining a lot of significant momentum. We've broken ground at Evendale at Fred Hornbier's place. it just this month and are working on the stream restoration and trail project there that is just going to connect to this piece of land that we want to purchase from Norfolk Southern. And the good news, the bang is that we just got our Clean Ohio grant, so we can pay for the entire parcel of land, 8.2 acres, and we've got great parks to lead the effort. The Mill Creek Alliance, the Tri-State Trail, so you're just going to be so impressed with how this trail is going to enhance what you all your goals with the downtown and that sort of thing. It's just going to be an economic and recreation boom. So with that, do you have any questions?
Okay.
No, but it sounds very exciting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your support.
And then Scott's here to talk about the next two pieces.
Good evening. Touch on ordinance 2021-24E, which is up for second and third reading and emergency approval. This is utilizing the city was able to access some CARES Act funding in late 2020. And as we kind of wound down the year, we realized that we had a pretty good year and there were others that needed more assistance than we did. This council with ordinance 2020-57E set aside $700,000 to help nonprofits, businesses, and others in need. So this is applying $50,000 of that and awarding it to Festivals of Sharonville to pass on to the kind of umbrella of nonprofits that makes their annual event happen, and all the other kind of help support all those other activities that those nonprofits do in the community. Ordinance 2021-25E relates to right-of-way and right-of-entry costs. This appropriates $210,000 in the 401 capital fund. $200,000 of this is for some right-of-way associated with the FEMA project, Wise Carver, right there at the Loop, Main Street. The right-of-way is far beyond what was kind of assumed or proposed in the original grant application, kind of above and beyond what that project's able to withstand at this point. So this is to handle the appraisal and acquisition costs associated with that. Then there is also about $10,000 appropriated to cover the purchase of right of entry associated with the Kemper Sidewalk project. So, any questions about either one of those ordinances?
I don't have a question, but just to follow up on with regard to the CARES grant funding that you're going to hopefully vote on to reward the Festivals of Sharonville to help them and as a result of the pandemic. Just to give you an update, Jim Downton has successfully managed to get $10,000 grants out to 35 different businesses by the time we're all done. It was 30 as of Monday, but there were at least 5 in the chute. So the $350,000 that you additionally appropriated, in addition to that $100,000 that you had already done earlier from our first batch, has gone out, has been soaked up by our businesses in our community to help keep them strong. There might be 1 or 2 out there that either came in right at the deadline or a little bit after the deadline. So we're looking at those to see if we might come back for another couple of $10,000 pots to help those businesses out as well if they meet those criterion that we've set, that you set, in order to make that a beneficial thing for our businesses and our community. So thank you to all of you. I want to give you that update. We're going to make sure, I know Jim is working on getting that out to the public so that they know that Sharonville continues to do business, that our folks are still here, our small businesses are continuing through this time, and hopefully we're all seeing a light at the end of the tunnel sooner rather than later.
Mr. Lippert?
Yeah, we discussed this in law committee. I think Mr. Schmidt has done a good job as chair as far as limiting use of emergencies. Would you mind explaining for the record and for council why an emergency is appropriate here as far as the possible loss of funding if we don't meet certain deadlines and that kind of thing?
Yeah, the emergency or on the appropriation ordinance, normally we don't do too many appropriation ordinances by emergency at all because they're amending an emergency with the budget that we approved at the end of the previous year. In this case, we did the emergency because there's the authorization to execute all those agreements. And yes, especially the FEMA project is time sensitive. There are a lot of boxes to check between now and the deadline on that project, which is down the road. But the work through this right-of-way process and through this utility process ahead of construction phase, and those things all have to be done ahead of that, is makes what seem like a long time frame. It's going to slip away pretty fast. So it's important to get that ball rolling on those pieces.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
And then Noah has the last piece.
Good evening. Ordinance 2021-26E is to provide make whole payments to Stefan Kowal, convention center employee. And during the pandemic, due to the downturn in business calls at the convention center, we engaged the state of Ohio Shared Work Ohio program, which is the layoff diversion program. It provides some payment to employees who are working a reduced schedule. Stefan was among those employees, and an error in the program caused him to go several weeks without being paid. So what this does is it provides the payments that he should have received from the state of Ohio, and includes a clause to be put into the agreement that if he later receives those funds from the state of Ohio, that he would owe it dollar for dollar back to the city. So to make sure that he gets the money that we promised him that he would get. I'd be happy to take any questions on it.
Any questions? No, I think that's being very fair. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it for the legislation this evening.
I do not have a report this evening. We'll go to our clerk of council, Mrs. Buhite.
Thank you, but no report either.
Okay, we'll move on to our law director, Mr. Pietmeyer.
No report.
Okay, we're on a roll here. Are there any residents this evening that wish to be heard? Nope, we're good? All right. Council committees, community development, Mr. Tankersley.
Thank you. I don't have a report, but I just want to let everybody know out there in ICRC land that the Dog Cafe is now open and up and running. So I've heard they've got good food. I
Right.
haven't been there yet, so just want to put that out there.
All right, thank you. Community services, Mr. Lippert.
Thank you. We met on April 7th, last Wednesday. We had the opportunity to meet the new Public Works Director, Stephen Bosom / city engineer. So if you have not had the opportunity to meet him, he's a really nice guy. Please take that opportunity. And Mike Carlson is doing an excellent job of transitioning with him. Mr. Blomer also provided his report and detailed what's coming up over the summer, not the least of which is the reopening of Camp Sharonville, which has signups starting soon, if not already.
Today.
Is it today? There you go. So I know the written reports are on file with Ms. Buhite, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Budget and finance, Mr. Cook.
Thank you. No report for budget and finance, but for project oversight, we had met on March 30th and we discussed the FEMA project, the downtown flood mitigation. We had reviewed the updated drawings and the reason for the cost increase. It will be a challenge. There are several agencies. And ultimately, we felt that because of the flood mitigation, this is what we would call a JDI, just do it project. So the committee is recommending that proceed forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Law and Public Safety, Mr. Schmidt.
Well, thank you. The next Law and Public Safety Committee meeting will be on Tuesday, the 20th at 4 o'clock in council chambers. Thank you.
Thank you. Rule suspension motion for first and only reading with immediate effectivity of ordinance 2021-25E and 2021-26E. Second and third reading with immediate effectivity on ordinance 2021-24E. Is there a motion? So moved by Mr. Lippert, second by Mr. Wilson. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, yes?
Yes.
Those opposed, no. And that motion carries. We'll go to unfinished business, please.
The second and third reading, nope, sorry. Take that back. This is just the third reading of Resolution 2021-R02. Resolution authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into a memorandum of understanding with other communities and organizations that comprise the Sharon Creek Collaborative to plan for, construct, and maintain the Sharon Creek Trail.
Is there a motion to pass Resolution 2021-R02? So moved by Mrs. Knight, second by Mr. Cook. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Tankersley,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Lippert,
Yes.
Mr. Duda,
Yes.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Mrs. Knight,
Yes.
and Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
Okay. Resolution 2021-R02 has been approved. This is a second and third reading of Emergency Ordinance 2021-24E, authorizing assistance to festivals of Sharonville and declaring an emergency.
Is there a motion to pass ordinance 2021-24E? So moved by Mr. Wilson, second by Mr. Tankersley. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Tankersley,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Lippert,
Yes.
Mr. Duda,
Yes.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Mrs. Knight,
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt. Emergency Ordinance 2021-24E has been approved. And would you like new business?
And new business, yeah.
Okay. This is a first and only reading of first and only reading of ordinance 2021-25E, amending 2021 appropriations for the 401 Capital Fund and authorizing the Safety Service Director to approve necessary agreements to acquire right-of-way and right of entry and declaring an emergency.
Is there a motion to pass ordinance 2021-25E? So moved by Mr. Cook, second by Mrs. Knight. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Schmidt, I just saw your hand.
Just a real quick comment on the FEMA project. That is one of the absolute best proposals I've ever seen. The engineering, it's really going to be a tight squeeze. Doing some combining of agencies, which in and of itself is difficult, but the way we're doing it is even very creative, and it's going to be a challenge to do it on time. But the Tetra Tech report is one of the best I've ever seen. Very similar to what the private sector corporations really require. And I can only say that it was outstanding. We followed Mr. Cook's recommendation from the Oversight Committee. Law Committee reviewed it, and we don't like to do emergencies unless we absolutely have to. We like the second and third as we did tonight. But just as a note to tell everyone that I'm not sure how we acquired Tetra Tech, Jim, but whoever got us that arrangement, they are excellent. The whole engineering program is excellent. You really can't get the full spectrum from our little printouts tonight, but we got the ones at Law Committee from Oversight Committee, and they are absolutely as detailed and as professional as I've ever seen. So congratulations, Jim. It's going to be a journey, and it's a tight fit, and it's doing something that's very creative. Very, I think we're kind of combining things, and that's going to be tough, but it really to applaud everyone who's involved in this to this point. Thank you.
Thank you. If no other comments, roll call.
Mr. Tankersley,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Lippert,
Yes.
Mr. Duda,
Yes.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Mrs. Knight,
Yes.
and Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
Ordinance 2021-25E has been approved. First and only reading of Emergency Ordinance 2021-26E, an ordinance authorizing make-whole payments to Stefan Kawach, sorry if I mispronounced that, an employee of the Sharonville Convention Center for funds due to him under the State of Ohio's Shared Work Ohio program and declaring an emergency.
Is there a motion to pass ordinance 2021-26E? So moved by Mr. Duda, second by Mr. Schmidt. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Tankersley,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Lippert,
Yes.
and Mr. Duda,
Yes.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Mrs. Knight,
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
Emergency ordinance 2021-26E has been approved.
Thank you. Again, an opportunity for residents that wish to be heard this evening. Are there any other matters before council? Mr. Duda.
Yes, I want to bring up, obviously you guys know, 10 days ago, it was a fire in Sharonville. It happened on April 3rd on Saturday. It started around 6:30 PM and several families, 6 families were displaced from that fire, including myself and my mother. But I want to thank everybody who supported me, from the city of Sharonville, from residents, from elected officials to city leaders and all around Greater Cincinnati and beyond. And I would like to especially thank our police department and fire department for being excellent there on the scene. They spent over 5 hours there with me and everyone else, answering questions, comforting us, talking to us. And it was like a life-changing type of ordeal, because we saw that fire happening in front of us for over 5 hours, and a traumatic emotional experience, but I feel positive because of the support of everyone. And I would like to thank everyone and firsthand experience how excellent our fire department and surrounding fire departments are as well. Because for that fire, I believe 5 other departments such as Woodlawn, Westchester, Sycamore Township, Blue Ash, they were all called on scene. So, and it was interesting to see how everyone works as a team, and our police did an amazing job as well. So thank you to everyone, and thank you for your support.
Thank you. And Shayak, I can just say, I'm probably from everyone, we're glad you and your mom are okay. Thank you. Are there any other matters? Seeing none, is there a motion for adjournment? So moved by Mr. Tankersley, second by Mr. Wilson. All those in favor, yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no, and we are adjourned.